Welcome to Airsoft City. Today we are going to compare a cheap airsoft pistol and a expensive airsoft pistol.
So Jaden, you started off, I recall, with the cheap airsoft pistol.
Yep.
And so can you tell me a little bit more about it? Why it's an advantage and maybe some disadvantages?
So the advantage with your cheap pistol, it's affordable. It's not too bad, but it's still pretty bad. And yeah, I mean, decent magazine, so.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the quality? What is it made out of?
It's made of complete plastic. That's what I know of. And yeah, that's really it. Most of the buttons don't work besides the safety, and the safety doesn't even work because you can still pull it back with the safety.
And how is the gun powered?
It's powered by a very weak spring. I don't know what kind, but yeah, it's really not that powerful with the spring.
And what kind of BBs do you put inside of it?
So I recommend using cheap BBs because I don't want anyone putting expensive BBs in cheap pistol.
And what size do you use?
Size? Well, for weight, I just use 0.25. That's what I use for most of my guns, but for spring-powered guns, I always use 0.12 because they're cheap and they kind of match with a cheap gun.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now, do you have to spend any more money after you get the gun?
Yes and no. You do have to pay for the BBs, but you don't have to usually pay for lube, gas, and like all the other stuff.
And can you tell me a little bit more about the power and the accuracy?
Yeah, so accuracy, it pretty much doesn't exceed like 25 feet. And power, yeah, it's pretty bad. But yeah, if you went to an airsoft game with only cheap pistols, there is a high chance that if you shoot someone, they won't feel it.
Okay. Now, why would somebody want to buy one of these cheaper guns?
I suggest buying a cheap gun if you have seen a lot of airsoft videos but never have had one and you want to try. So I recommend that because it's cheap and you don't have to pay for lube and gas.
Okay. And now tell me about the quality. Do you think that if the gun jammed or if you dropped it from a high elevation, would the gun survive?
So if you dropped it, it probably will survive, just probably dents and scratches because there's not much besides the spring in the slide in the magazine.
Okay.
But also if it gets jammed, that's where kind of a problem gets. What I would do, because I have had it, I think, you would take the magazine out. If you can't, then I don't know what to do. But you try and take the magazine out and then just pull it back as many times as you can. That's what I try and do, but yeah, usually jams don't happen.
Okay, so let's switch over to this other gun that you have.
The
So you've had
expensive.
this one for about how long?
Like 3-4 months, I think.
3-4 months? Okay, so tell me a little bit more about this one and the difference between the cheaper one and this particular gun.
So with your expensive pistol, mostly made of metal, it's got a little bit of weight, which has a realistic feel, which I usually like. It is very powerful. It can go for at least 100 feet with no wind. So 50 feet with wind. Yeah, magazine, it pretty much always comes in a double stack magazine.
Now, why do you have two magazines?
The reason why is because this one has like a more advanced like springs and
Well, it's not
like,
spring, it's air-powered, right?
Air-powered, I meant.
Right. So they get two different options.
Yeah, you can do propane, which I will use during. This is CO2. I would use this during battles because it's really powerful and it lasts long. Propane or green gas. This I would just use for at home, unless you live in Minnesota or somewhere that it gets cold. Then you kind of have to switch to CO2 because the gas won't work as well in the cold.
Okay. Now tell me a little bit about the weight and the durability. So if I were to drop it.
So, yeah, durability, it's probably a little better than the cheap one. But if you drop it, it may damage the entire pistol because it's made of metal. There's pretty much, you kind of have to use every single part. You got a spring in the front, you got your hammer in the back, which mine broke once, but that was with a different gun.
Okay.
And another great thing is you can disassemble the entire thing. And I'm saying this because I once went to a field and it got completely sandy. And that happened with a cheap pistol, which I will never bring. I can't take it apart, and it's gonna have to go to the garbage. But my dad helped me take it apart and clean out all the sand inside, and now it works really good.
Okay, very good. Now this one here also spring powered versus gas powered. What about recoil? What's the difference?
So this one, it's just like a real firearm. You can just pull the trigger. The slide will go back because of the gas, and it will shoot the BB out, and it'll load a new BB when it goes in front. When the slide goes back in front.
So it's semi-automatic?
Yes, semi-automatic. Okay. You can get some pistols with full auto, but if you want to do that and bring it to a field, it's your choice, but I would get a bigger magazine for it because you're going to run out quickly. With a spring pistol, every time you shoot, you have to pull it back to get the spring ready again. And yeah, it gets really annoying. But yeah, it's good for starters and people who have never done Airsoft.
Okay, good.
Thank you for watching the video. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn post notifications on to the channel. Also, shout out to Games Airsoft Guns for giving me this idea because I have absolutely nothing to do. Bye.